Greetings fellow mammals, time for the second weapon of the season. I think we can skip the intro today. The BROD 3 is the fourth entry to the main carbine group that has so far consisted of the M4, GRT and QBZ. So this damage model should be familiar to most of you, and resulting BTK graph as well. What's interesting though is that it doesn't fill a rate of fire gap like all the additions we have seen so far. Instead it comes with the exact same RPM as the GRT. And with those 830 rounds per minute we obviously also get the same 217 millisecond time to kill in the first range. Sadly sim.gg hasn't uploaded the exact recoil values yet, but from my experience with it so far I would say it leans a tad towards the M4, being a bit more on the unwieldy side, but still noticeably more comfortable to use. Before I dive deeper into its niche though, let's quickly talk about the headshot potential first. Just like on the EF88, we also had the outdated headshot multipliers here, but in a funny turn of events they have just fixed this issue, literally 30 minutes before I started recording this. So not even an hour ago we used to have the graphs on the right, and now we have the fixed ones on the left. So let's just focus on those now. What you can easily observe here is that hollow-point ammo, except for the very first range with 2 headshots, is only really useful when you land 3. And even then the effect is pretty limited. Now, is it likely to land 3 headshots in those ranges? Kind of. The fire rate helps for sure, but to be honest, I think it's pretty underwhelming and a waste of points on this gun. Thankfully that makes building a solid loadout a bit simpler. So let's get to that. Now, before I can talk about my final loadouts and what I used in the time in between and during the leveling progress, I have to tell you about another little bug, or little is, well, we'll get to it. So let me just quickly show you something. I'm not going to control the recoil right now. This is what you get. With no attachments. I'm using the flashlight just so you can see it better. And now I'm going to use the match trigger, which should improve weapon performance in semi-auto, so single fire, reducing recoil and increasing accuracy. This is basically the best grip and double accuracy or maybe triple accuracy stack and heavy barrel all in one attachment, which is usually balanced because it's for single fire. But on this weapon, as well as the EF88, by the way, it also works in full auto right now. And this is the result. That's just the match trigger. Yeah, this is also the reason why this video was delayed, by the way. So I had to rewrite my script and talk about this as well. But you might have seen it somewhere else already. So if you're going to use this until they fix it, by the way, I think they will probably take 1 or 2 more days until they just disable this attachment and then it will be fixed in the next patch. But for the time being, as long as this is happening, I would recommend long suppressor, green laser. You don't need accuracy attachments because this thing is the best accuracy attachment there is. Extended barrel for the velocity, and then you add the slim hand stop to get back to 200 milliseconds. This is best velocity, best hip fire, super accurate, no recoil. It doesn't get better than this. It's the absolute buggy loadout par excellence. And yeah. So as long as this is so fucking ridiculous. As long as this is the case, this is what I would recommend right now. And when they finally remove this, it's actually a simple switch. I would turn to the buffer, upgrade the slim hand stop to the slim angled, and turn the green to the blue laser. So now we have 1 accuracy attachment, a grip that doesn't lower accuracy but helps a bit more with recoil, and the buffer for the visual shake. This is what I used as my final loadout. As you can see, compared to the match trigger, it's a bit more unwieldy. It's not as accurate, but it's still pretty good. So this is what we're actually judging in the end. And in comparison, I know it looks a lot worse, but it really is still a very good weapon. So this is my personal, well, kind of final setup, because actually on small maps I change it to green and full angled. So Cairo, for example, I use this setup, and on Mirak Valley or Eastwood I use blue and slim angled. The rest stays the same. Just for reference though, during my leveling process I also tried this setup, which is basically the light violet full accuracy stack with the alloy vertical for a bit of recoil, no reduction in accuracy and a good ADS speed still. I also tried this setup on King of the Hill and Domination, so this is basically full hipfire, green laser, short barrel, the 20-point compensator, full angled for recoil, and even penetration ammo and a small mag for better sprint recovery and ADS speed, 133 millisecond, it's nuts. And yeah, I mean, you do notice the 20 rounds, but on the smaller modes it's not that bad. And on Iberian and maps like that you sometimes get those penetration kills, at least a lot more regularly than you would on Conquest and Escalation. So this worked as well, and I also used another setup. This is basically the full strafe speed build, so we're actually at 91% strafe speed here, lightweight ammo, small magazine, slim angled, violet laser, basic barrel, suppressor and buffer, and then you can walk very fast left and right, and it's still super accurate and easy to control. It's just, no matter what you build this for, if it's strafe speed, if it's hip fire, if it's mid-range accuracy, if it's close range hip fire and better recoil, it really doesn't matter. And that takes me to another setup I used, this setup, which is the full recoil reduction. So the best grip there is, extended barrel, basic magazine and buffer. You can afford all of this, you still get 200 millisecond ADS speed, you get the best velocity, you get 30 rounds, and you get the least recoil possible. Obviously no accuracy attachments, so if you do move while shooting, this is a bit more troublesome. But anything else is, it almost feels like the cord, I would say, just from the rate of fire and the lack of movement you have to do with your mouse. So yeah, this worked as well, and that's really the main point I have to bring home here. This weapon really doesn't care how you build it. With all these setups I had success. Some more, some less, but that depends more on my playstyle and not the weapon. And that's basically what I want to say. My final setup might look like like this. But all the other ones work too. And that's pretty rare, at least in my experience. On most other weapons there are maybe 2, sometimes 3 setups that are useful, and the rest is either a gimmick to troll someone or to punish a friend or something if they ask for a loadout. But this weapon can really do anything. It's really fun, it's really versatile, and I had a great time. And I think that perfectly moves us over to the tier list. So this is my final setup, or on closer maps, full angled and green. Works wonders, really fun. Enjoy. As you saw, this weapon barely has any limitations when it comes to the builds, and that's also the perfect hook to talk about its relevance. At first glance you might have thought, why do we need an exact copy of the GRT? Seems a bit pointless. Well, yeah, but it really isn't though, and that's mostly because of the attachments. The GRT is simply way more restricted than the BROD. For example, the sheer lack of angled grips and the particularly annoying reload makes this look really enticing in comparison. Additionally, as I already talked about in a past video, the time to kill difference to the M4 is barely noticeable. So in the end, the BROD is simply a more user-friendly, more adaptable, slightly easier to handle than the M4 but a bit rougher than the GRT, and most importantly, of course in my completely subjective opinion, a much better looking and sounding weapon than the latter. So my final verdict is this. The BROD is for people who dislike the recoil of the M4, but also dislike the build limitations of the GRT. This weapon sits in the middle of that spectrum and it fills out that role perfectly. And now that I'm looking at my tier list, I think I can already see the perfect slot for it. To me, the BROD has been an S tier experience, and that's ignoring the match trigger bug. No matter how I built it, it always seemed to work. And if you even slightly enjoy the carbine category as a whole, then I'm fairly confident you will enjoy this weapon as well. Personally, I will prefer using this over the M4A1 in the future, and I will be looking forward to whenever that might happen again. What has your experience been like? Let me know in the comments. That's it for today. Thank you for your time, and I will see you on the battlefield. Sorrow out.